Good day, people. I am Lauren Zavano presenting Unati Children's Network, an NGO that specializes on fighting all forms of abuse against children. We believe if we come together as a community, we'll be able to stop gender-based violence. That's why we are asking you to participate. Our topic today is on sexual exploitation against a girl child being an intolerable cruelty and social ill. Let's hear more from our host.
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to our talk show this afternoon. I'm the hostess. My name is Cruelty. On behalf of Unati Network Trust, I'm going to take you to my panelists. There are three wonderful people that are going to be giving us the afternoon talk. Can my panelists begin to introduce themselves, and they'll tell you who they are and where they are coming from and why they are here in this talk show.
My name is Majorina Mwenesu. I'm from Shamaria Manaskana. I'm the programs coordinator there. I'm here to contribute on this topic on sexual exploitation and the impacts of sexual exploitation in our society.
My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gasa. I'm the country executive director of the AIDS and Arts Foundation, which is TAF Zimbabwe. We are the champions in terms of working with children in internal displacement. So we are also here to contribute to this good exercise. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Noktula Gavaza, the founding executive director at Unati Children's Network Trust. We are here to have a discussion on this thematical topic on sexual exploitation of the girl child, which is definitely an intolerable cruelty and a social ill. And we hope that this discussion is going to actually bring out ways in we can curb this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for good introductions. I'm going to go into the questions right away that I have for them. First of all, we want to understand what is a girl child. First, who is a girl child? What is sexual exploitation? I want the viewers to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. I want to start with the women first. From the women's point of view, can you explain about the girl child exactly, and then talk about the exploitation? What is exploitation when we are talking about the sexual exploitation?
Okay. A girl child is a girl or a woman is under 18 years of age, and sexual exploitation is the actual or attempted abuse of a position of vulnerability, power or trust for sexual purposes, including but not limited to profiting monetarily, socially or politically from the sexual exploitation of another person. So in short, that is sexual exploitation is the abuse of vulnerability, power or trust.
I think I would bring it closer to our point of discussion today, where we would say now child sexual exploitation, it's now the abuse, sexual abuse of a child, especially the girl child, where because they are vulnerable, they are in need, and a girl child is taken advantage of because they need help, they need assistance, and a perpetrator seeing that they need that assistance, they take advantage of them. That's child sexual exploitation in my own point of view.
So in other words, you are saying they've got no choice at times because of the need of the social power or the economical power. Can I hear it from the men, from the men's side, how they explain it?
To us, sexual exploitation, it really means it's a bound of no choice, particularly being found in girl children, where they really do not have minimum, maximum decision as far as their sexual orientation is concerned.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Now I want to understand, why are the children exploited and where are the parents? Have you ever find out what's going on with them? What's the background like? What makes them end up being exploited?
Okay, mostly in situations where you find especially a girl child being exploited, it's because of the background and communities where such children are coming from. I would actually give examples like in our country, in Zimbabwe. Such cases, we find them in the most vulnerable communities, or maybe in mining areas you'd find such situations, or in the outskirts of the major cities. That's where you would find situations where we have children who are sexually exploited because they are in need. They are in need economically, and they are in need socially. Their social upbringing has become so bad to the extent that they need support, and they fail to find it. And those who know and see that these children, they actually need assistance, they tend to take advantage of them through all forms of exploitation. It's not only sexual, but also in form of labor as well, like in the mining areas where you find a child as young as 4 or 5 years is actually working in the mines, and you find that kids are actually exploited in that manner. And more so with the girl child, sexual exploitation comes in because that child needs money for basic needs like food, clothing, sanitary wear, and the like. Hence, a child becomes sexually exploited because of the needs that they have.
I can see one of our panelists is from the AIDS and Arts Foundation. When it comes to their sexual rights, or how are they treated? Who looks after them after they've been exploited?
Normally what we have discovered is there is need to provide psychosocial support to the children, because you really find that when they come and they report that they've been sexually exploited, it's really important that there is need to prepare the mindset as form of rehabilitation to that particular child. In order for them to be able to stand, you really need to give them the courage by themselves. So you can only do that by providing psychosocial support, where they themselves know the meaningful solutions of how they can actually combat. So as the AIDS and Arts Foundation, we have managed to come up with different forms of arts that we then educate these particular children, so that at least in terms of them, they are now able to speak out artistically, so that it's form of them standing up by using all forms of art.
Okay.
Yes.
You've just mentioned that there's an art area that you teach them and train them, that they're able to stand for themselves. Suppose this child says, I've got no choice, but I need to look after my siblings. I've got no form of income. What protection do you give them? Do they have any protection when they are being exploited? Because at times you won't be there to stop any abuse. What happens with them?
To us, we've had children already who have come and we have actually helped them to manage to stand up. So what we then, after we train them, when they come saying that we no longer have some things to do, it's really difficult for us. We don't have something to feed on. We don't have something to eat. Poverty has killed us. Poverty is killing us. We then educate them. If they become artistic, it's then easy for us more like to connect them to some of the corporate partners that we work with, so that at least they give them something to do, so that they earn income at the end of the day, so that they actually come out of poverty-stricken elements of being exploited again.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens to the perpetrator? What happens to the perpetrator? Because it takes the perpetrator and the victim. What do you do with them?
As Shamari Manaskana, we help our girls to find justice. We have got a legal department under our Girls Protection Services, where we actually help these girls in finding justice. Not only do we do that, we also provide psychosocial support for these girls in forms of group counseling, family counseling, and even peer counseling and support groups. We also economically empower our girls, so much that they find sources of income to support themselves, and sometimes out of these exploitation incidents, some of the girls, they have children. So we economically empower our girls. We have got an economic empowerment program in Imrewa that is very vibrant, where some of these child marriage survivors are actually growing vegetables. They are doing poultry projects there to support themselves and their families. We support these girls by paying their school fees. We educationally support them. We try to fund funds for them to pay their school fees, so that we wholly support survivors of sexual exploitation. We not only target them, but after supporting them with psychosocial support, we economically empower them, and we also try to find justice to them by helping them, or by counseling, by supporting them get justice through our legal department.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Unati. What would you think is the best way to curve around this exploitation problem? Because it's not only in the sexual side, it's also economically, even socially in the communities. What's the best way? What would you think?
All right. Personally, I think that the best way to curb the sexual exploitation of the girl child is to actually bring back the family essence. Long back we used to say umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, and it takes a village, it takes a community to raise a child, of which it's something that is not taking place today. Each person minds their own business. When a child goes astray, you find a neighbor saying, okay, ngokwakhe, ngokwangibo, angungeni lokho, I'm not part of it. But if we would go back to a culture whereby as a community we work hand in glove to actually help the kids, we would actually have a situation whereby we are helping in curbing these situations. As a community, we would actually bring back the important role of banatete or auntie, the aunties, where they would actually sit with girls and help in grooming them. And when a girl child is groomed, they would know their self-worth, they would know their value as a girl. They would understand that I don't need a sugar daddy, I don't need a blesser, I don't need an old man to actually sleep with me so that I can have money to support whatever that I need, whether it's economically, it's tuition, it's whatever. So when we have a community which is actually coming in to help in these issues, it will help us in the long way. Not only just the community, even the churches as well. If we could have the church councils actually coming up with ways in which they could groom not only the girl child but even the boys, so that they can be well groomed and understand their self-worth, it will help us. Creating projects that will actually make these kids understand that you don't need to sit and wait for a salary in the near future, but they need to understand that they can have an income using their hands. I would say what the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education did in introducing the new curriculum was actually a great idea, whereby kids as young as ECD, they now understand what entrepreneurship is. But now for that to be really, it's for that to actually show so much impact, it needs to come with more resources. Hence now as CSOs and non-governmental organizations, we need to complement this effort which has been done by the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education by finding ways whereby we can actually assist in having these projects implemented and making the kids understand what entrepreneurship is. So these are things that need to be done, and perpetrators need to be put to justice.
Thank you so much for saying that. There it goes to you viewers. What do you think is the best practice in communities? Because the communities are no longer a good place for the young ladies. They are not sure even of the men in the next door. When they see that they're struggling, the man next door even takes advantage of the girl child for the fact that they don't have anything to eat. So as a community, I think it's a bond to think about what's the way forward for the communities to actually help and assist these young ladies as they are growing up. Like what Unati is saying, let's go back to Ubuntu. Ubuntu would say a child belongs to the community. But the question is the child still belonging to the community anymore these days? Because everyone is minding their business. I'll come back to my male friend this side. I'll ask him one thing that is a bit sensitive, that when a man sees a 12-year-old and they see a woman in them, what exactly would you think of that as a man?
What I would think is a girl is a girl and a woman is a woman. So with this is why we at TAF appreciate that what the former head of state said, that to you males, you see this particular young girl and then you rape them. Why don't you go back home and buy your wife a uniform so that you see her as young as she should be looking? So that in terms of what you then see in that particular girl, before you even rape her, you can actually then think that even my wife is also like this. So all that we now need to do is to invest in our wives, so that whatever we really want to see in them, be it young, be it old, it's us who dress them. So let's dress up our women and then see the good that we want to see, not to be attracted to the woman out there and then abuse and rape them. It's really illegal. We don't appreciate. And then coming to the point that she made about the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, yes, they did really a good job. But all that we now need to see collectively as a country is engagement between the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education and the Ministry of Women's Affairs. They now need to come up with a tendency of engagement as them as ministries, that to what extent are we able to empower our own girl children, so that at least collectively as ministries they really have something that is ongoing as a collective. They speak and they sing from the same hymn. So all that we now need is create communication amongst the ministries, because there is no integration amongst some government departments. So it should actually start from that level. Honorable Kane Matema talking to Honorable Stembisonyon and engage in order for them to make sure that what is it that we can collectively create a conducive environment for the girl children. Because we seem to be having all the good systems in the country, but we don't seem to be having the real maximum tendency of making the environment conducive and safe for every girl child in this nation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up with that we engaged with the ministries. But I'll come back to this question. As civic organizations, are you also playing your part fully?
As civic organizations, yes, we are playing our part fully. But to some extent, government hasn't been that much forthcoming. They see civil society as enemies. Yet we are actually there and we were born to complement their efforts. So all that we need to have is government should see us as its own children and show us the way that to what extent, because in civil society you find we actually have technocrats, people who have done all the research, who have got all the meaningful evidence. So to what extent can government be able and open its book on the table and say that here is the book, are able to complement the efforts that we have made as a collective? So all that we need to see and what we are seeing in other countries is their governments are coming up front and then say, as civil society, we need this, we need that, so that at least we can complement each other, not to see each other as enemies. We are there to complement each other, as UNAT is doing, which is something that we really need to commend and appreciate. So government should also come and then complement and engage, not to see UNAT as an enemy, but to say that since you are the technocrat, to what extent are you able to give us the evidence that we need to work our strategy and the impact that we really need to make, going which direction as a collective? Not in order for them to come with as dictators and dictate to the programmers. The programmers know better. So it's really important that we need to go back to the drawing board and collectively government should make sure that it appreciates the wonderful work partners are doing, particularly the civil society in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for saying that we need proper engagement. It takes the teamwork spirit for everything to happen, so that we can protect our children, because the next generation won't be there as long what is happening now will actually excel to extremes, where a young lady is exploited as early as 12 years old. Well, imagine at 18, is there a leader in that person? She will be suffering from so many traumas. Finally, I want to come back to my panelists to conclude about the way forward. How are we going to manage to work towards achieving the goal 2030 and having all the children and having every girl child in their proper place? Because it's not only the girl child affected, even the boy child is also affected, because they are going to be doing it together, not alone. Because as they grow, their men, they don't know the difference between their sisters, and they don't know the difference between the young ladies and the older ladies. So, Shamari, can you tell us what's the way forward? What do you think?
I think we need to appreciate as a nation that girls do not live in a vacuum. Girls live in communities, and from these communities there comes the exploitation. So we need to work with the parents, we need to work with the teachers, we need to work with the men and boys in these communities. Like what I was saying, as an organization, we have got a male and boys engagement platform where we engage these men and boys to become champions of gender equality. So that we don't see them as perpetrators, but they actually work to facilitate gender equality in their own homes, in their own workplaces. We should realize the root cause of sexual exploitation in our country. It's mainly poverty, where we even have some women exploiting these girls for money. We have got women who are actually taking these girls, exploiting them for money, giving them to older men for them to be given money. So maybe if we come back maybe to programming on keeping girls in school. We need to keep these girls in school, because most of the time they cannot be in school because of poverty. Parents cannot afford school fees. What can we do? The school children cannot afford pads. You know, we have got girls who are experiencing period poverty in Zimbabwe. And the realization of this is that girls are dropping out of school because they cannot afford pads. So what do we do as a nation? Let's provide free pads firstly to rural girls in Zimbabwe. There was a commitment from the government of Zimbabwe to provide rural girls with pads, but as we realized the COVID pandemic, the funds were reported to have been diverted to fight COVID-19 in Zimbabwe. But we are urging the government of Zimbabwe to stick to their promise that they will actually provide pads to rural girls in Zimbabwe, so that we keep them in school. Because one of the reasons why these girls are exploited is because we cannot keep them in school. They go back home, they've got nothing to do. Poverty staring them in their eyes. What do? They go look for money for survival. In other words, mostly they find is these men who exploit the girls for survival, even for clothes or for drinks. So what we are saying is, let's find the root cause of sexual exploitation. Let's address it. Let's go into communities. Let's teach the men and boys. Let's empower our girls economically, so that they are kept in school and they've got something to eat. This way, I think as a nation, we can avoid or prevent sexual exploitation in our girls.
Yes, what I'll ask, she has said it almost all, but I know my other two participants would want to say something. My question is now, if the girl was exploited, how are we going to bring them to the normal society? As you are including, what's the way forward? How are we going to bring them back? How are we going to marry them with the society and they be accepted and appreciated?
To us as the AIDS and Arts Foundation, what we have managed to come up with is issues of rehabilitation. It is really important that for sustainability purposes, in terms of the initiatives that we are doing, is engagement of the girl child, and to make sure that you make them sit down and then you actually ask them what they want to become in their own lives. They seem to actually have a better concentrated way forward, better than we anticipate. So all that we need to do to get the ball rolling is to ask the girl child, what do they want to become? Like us, we're only using the arts as a stepping stone that they can become anything they want to be in their own lives. We teach them how to write articles, how to write stories, how to create and make theater play, how to do stone sculpture, how to do wood sculpture, how to do poetry, how to do cartoons, so that at least in order for them, it's easy for them to become anything that they feel. And we even bring people who have made it in life, and then they give them exposure, and they come and then do career guidance and educate them how best you can become like me. It's not easy, it's never the end of the road. So all that we want to say is we are happy that now in terms of programming, we used to have adolescent girls and young women, which were the programs that were focusing only on the girl child and young women. But now I'm happy that the world has adopted the adolescent boys and young men concept, which is really in its own infancy. That we strongly feel that it's high time that we actually equalize equality for the young boy and the young girl as equal. Like now, as far as making sure that we need to address issues of inequality, SDG number 10, which is really important, that we need to go back to the communities and make sure that collectively, in order for us to come with solutions, how best do you think so all that we now need to do is to address issues of inequality and make sure that the girl and the boy, they are all equal, and make sure that we catch these boys as young as possible, so that at least even when they grow up, they know that we are able to protect the girl child. Since issues of masculinities is still need to be addressed, the boys should also be there to protect the girl, and the girl, if possible, should also be there to protect the boy child. So all that we need to do is to embrace and harmonize the good initiatives that are happening. But all we need to see is to make sure that we use a gender lens in doing all programming and make sure that issues of inequality is properly addressed. And then to the government, it's really important that you don't need to put things as form of that we've launched this campaign and you don't commit any resources. There is need to also commit resources. As far as talking of issues of sanitary wear, and Staff Zimbabwe, we are now teaching the young girls to how to make reusable sanitary wear, which is something that they have said that they are happy about, and see them explore. They sell it and then they earn some income as form of economic justice on them, which is really something that government needs to scale up such initiatives that we are doing. It doesn't mean that as civil society we always have funding for everything. Even government can also come with their own resources and complement efforts and impact that organizations are doing around the country, not to see us as enemies. So collectively, we need to sit down as equals for our nation's benefit and not to see each other as terrorists or treat each other as if we are not equals. Since we are all citizens of the nation, Zimbabwe should come first. Let's collectively work together and make sure that we make a bright future for our own children as a collective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like Unati to conclude for us.
Okay, thank you so much, Soboloshe. What I would say is we should come to a point whereby we must not barter such sensitive issues like sexual exploitation of girl children, and where we must not barter issues like child marriages to the point where we have made something which is not normal and made it normal. And when a child is married off at a very young age, it has become normal to society. I believe that child marriage should be actually regarded as statutory rape. When a man marries a child, they should be charged with statutory rape. When a parent actually aids in having their child being married off, they are accomplices to statutory rape. These are things that we should be shouting out. Sexual exploitation of girl children should be regarded as a national state of emergency. We have so many of these precious young girl children who are so vulnerable to sexual exploitation, who are vulnerable to child marriages, which I see as statutory rape. These are things where our stakeholders such as the Minister of Primary Secondary Education and Minister of Women Affairs and the Department of Social Welfare should be actually speaking out, engaging with our different communities and actually aiding in trying to stop this. It's a pathetic situation, let me put it that way, where we have 9-year-olds actually speaking out how they actually sleep with these old men, how these old men come and they actually take them the whole night only for $1. It's so heartbreaking and pathetic at the same time. I remember saying this the other time where I was saying I remember Zimbabwe being a cultural community, a conservative country where men were regarded as men. I don't think we have men in Zimbabwe anymore, because if we had real men, a real man does not sleep with a child. A real man does not have sexual intercourse with a child. A real father does not sell his child off to marriage because they need money from that man. They need to be economically boosted up by this man who has come and said, I want to marry your child. These are things that we need to eradicate as a community. These are things that we need to polish out as a country. And I believe that we can do that if we work hand in glove with our government, with our different stakeholders and various CSOs and non-governmental organizations in the community. We can actually sweep all this off. But now if we actually turn a blind eye in these situations, we will not go anywhere, because when these kids are actually violated at such a tender age, which means our country is dead, we are not going to achieve our vision 2030 if we're not going to correct this immoral act which is actually happening in our various communities. So for us to actually achieve these goals, we need to fix what is happening on the ground. There are so many communities that are actually having these kids that are actually being sexually exploited, where kids are actually being married off at a tender age. We cannot continue turning a blind eye. We cannot keep on pointing a finger. This is happening in this area. But what we need to do is to come up as a nation and actually help in fighting against sexual exploitation of girl children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd love to thank my panelists for a job well done. I believe viewers, you've heard it all. It's up to us as a community to make a difference. Thank you so much.